Blood of my blood. Episode 8 was the moment fans had been waiting for. From the very first scene to the final frame, it felt like the season finally reached its peak. Secrets unfolded, tensions ran high, and one reunion left viewers cheering and in tears at the same time. For the first time this season, the story truly delivered on every level. It was gripping, heartbreaking, and unforgettable. And just when we thought we had caught our breath, the Episode 9 trailer came crashing in with the promise of rebellion, betrayal, and dangerous escapes. So let's dive into this powerful episode and unravel everything it revealed before breaking down the trailer that sets the stage for even bigger twists. The first thing that needs to be addressed is Ellen. Her storyline in this episode was raw, disturbing, and impossible to ignore. The ordeal she went through was not only humiliating, but it reminded us just how cruel the world was for women in that time. Treated as property, stripped of dignity, and forced to endure a test no human should ever face. That long, suffocating scene where Ellen was examined in front of so many men was shocking. It was not just the physical act itself, but the emotional torture of being left without privacy or protection. It told us more about her isolation than any words ever could. She truly has no one in that household except Mrs. Fitz by her side, and yet through that darkness, Julia stepped in. Julia's intervention may have been risky, but it changed everything. For those wondering how Ellen was able to pass the so-called virginity test, Julia's resourcefulness came into play. The ingredients she prepared, normally used in pickling meat, created a tightening effect on tissue when dried. It was a desperate but brilliant solution, one that fooled the physician and allowed Ellen to escape disgrace. That moment was not only a testament to Julia's intelligence, but also to her fierce loyalty. She would rather risk exposure and punishment than let Ellen be destroyed. But the aftermath raises another important question. How long can Ellen rely on this fragile cover before someone uncovers the truth? The test may have been passed, but the consequences of exposure still hang over her like a storm. Now let's talk about Malcolm Grant. From the very start of the season, he has stood apart from his father. There's a gentleness in him, a respect that makes him different from the harsh men around him. In this episode, that contrast was clearer than ever. His affection for Ellen seemed genuine, his admiration undeniable. He appeared reluctant to see her humiliated, and while he remains an obstacle to Ellen's happiness with Brian, his humanity makes him difficult to despise. Yet here lies the troubling question. Would he still treat her with kindness if the test had exposed her secret? If he knew she had been with another man, would his gentleness hold, or would he turn cold like the rest of them? The writers leave that uncertainty hanging in the air, forcing us to wrestle with it. And it's that uncertainty that makes Malcolm's character fascinating. He is not simply a villain or a romantic rival. He is layered, conflicted, and unpredictable. Malcolm's interaction with Henry only deepened that complexity. The twist of him wanting Henry to work with him for years to come showed both admiration and calculation. Henry has impressed him, and that creates a dangerous problem. Henry's path to freedom just grew narrower. Now he is bound by Malcolm's expectations, and finding a way out will demand more courage than ever. Before we get to the long-awaited reunion, let's pause to talk about Dina Porter. Early in the season, she was a mystery. Her motives seemed cloudy, her actions frustrating. But in this episode, we finally saw a different side of her. When Julia revealed her ability to read and her knowledge of the castle's hidden passage, Dina's shock was real. Yet rather than turning against Julia, she chose to support her. She promised to care for William, a promise that revealed both compassion and bravery. Dina Porter is no longer a side character hovering in suspicion. She is beginning to emerge as a force who may shape the story's future, and that evolution is one of the most satisfying developments in recent episodes. But now, let's turn to the moment fans could not stop talking about. Julia and Henry. The reunion that had been teased, delayed, and agonized over finally arrived. And it was everything. Julia and Henry's reunion had been teased for weeks, and the tension around it was unbearable. Fans feared the moment might never arrive, or worse, that it would be drawn out into something unsatisfying. For a brief scene, those fears became real. Henry almost convinced himself that what he had seen of Julia was nothing more than a dream. a ghostly vision born out of longing and desperation. But then the truth shattered that illusion. Julia was real, alive, and standing before him, their hands touching, her face in his grasp. It was raw, emotional, and deeply human. That reunion, however, came at a cost. It arrived at the very end of episode 8, forcing us to wait to see what comes next. The writers knew exactly what they were doing. They dragged their characters through endless trials before finally giving them this brief moment of light. And while it was frustrating to see the reunion happen so late, it was also powerful, because it reminded us just how much both Julia and Henry had endured. Every obstacle, every missed chance made this moment explode with relief. Still, the delay brings up a painful question. How much suffering is too much? Are the characters being pushed into needless torture just to stretch the drama? Or are the writers building the stakes so high that the eventual payoffs will cut even deeper? This tension between hope and despair is what keeps fans glued to the story. And as episode 9 approaches, that tension only grows. But not all viewers were satisfied. Some complained about the characters failing to act quickly. Why didn't Brian just sweep Ellen away when the chance was there? Why didn't Henry risk everything and flee with Julia the moment they reunited? These criticisms are valid, but context matters. Archbug, lurking in the shadows, was a constant threat. Henry making a rash move would have been a death sentence, as Archbug needed only the smallest excuse to put an end to him. Julia, too, was trapped by her circumstances. She is now Simon Fraser's wife, and that role carries heavy chains. To vanish without explanation would spark search parties, accusations, and endless danger. Their hesitation was not cowardice. It was survival. Brian and Ellen face a similar bind. Some believe Brian should have acted like Jamie once did with Claire, tearing through obstacles without a second thought. But Brian is not Jamie. His choices are shaped by caution, calculation, and perhaps even fear of the consequences. He wants Ellen's freedom, but he also wants her safety. And reckless action could cost her both. This leads us into the world-shaking events teased in the episode 9 trailer. The trailer does not linger in familiar rooms or small moments. Instead, it opens up into a larger stage, a gathering of clans, a brewing rebellion, a proclamation that will ignite a war. The synopsis confirms it. Episode 9, titled Braar, centers on the annual hunting event at Braar Castle. All the Highland clans gather, drawn together by tradition. But beneath the feasting and ceremony lies something dangerous. The Earl of Mar steps forward with a fiery proclamation, raising the Jacobite standard and declaring his intent to restore the exiled Stuart king to the throne. This single act shatters the fragile calm and hurls every character into the storm of the Jacobite rising. For our characters, this gathering is more than a political backdrop. It is a powder keg. Ellen, Brian, Julia, Henry, Malcolm, and Simon all are brought together in one place, their fates tied to the upheaval about to begin. And with so many secrets simmering beneath the surface, the hunting event becomes more than just history. It becomes the battlefield where love, loyalty, and betrayal collide. The trailer opens with Malcolm Grant's uncle confronting Ellen. His warning is sharp and merciless. Do not break Malcolm's heart. For Ellen, this is more than a simple threat. It is a sign that she is trapped not only by her own family's expectations, but also by the power of the Grants. If she dares to follow her heart and run to Brian, she will be hunted by every hand that claims to protect her. The walls around her grow higher, the pressure heavier. Yet within that same gathering, a spark of hope flickers. Brian and Ellen find a chance to see each other. Even amid the danger, even while surrounded by eyes ready to condemn them, the possibility of reunion glimmers. But this hope is shadowed by Simon Fraser, who has begun to notice just how serious his son's feelings for Ellen have become. And for Simon, that kind of seriousness can only end in disaster. At Braar Castle, the trailer shifts focus to Julia. Dressed elegantly and holding William, she appears to be stepping into the event as both a mother and the wife of Simon Fraser. But beneath the fine clothing and careful presentation, there is unease. Henry notices her presence, and that recognition sets his mind racing. He cannot simply walk to her. Too many eyes, too many risks. Instead, he turns to Ned Gowan, seeking his help to arrange a meeting or even an escape. This is where the danger sharpens. For Julia and Henry, the stakes have never been higher. Their love is no longer a private longing hidden in shadows. It is exposed by circumstance, surrounded by suspicion, and pressed against the weight of political chaos. Each move they make now must be calculated, because one mistake could cost them everything. But the trailer also delivers harsher news. Malcolm Grant, unsatisfied with waiting, announces his intent to marry Ellen immediately. Not after months of careful planning. Not after gentle courtship. Immediately. The urgency is suffocating. Ellen now faces a race against time. Unless she warns Brian and unless they find a way to act, her future will be sealed before she can break free. The question is no longer if they will run, but whether they can run fast enough. And then there is the growing tension between Colum and Dougal. The trailer teases their confrontation with the chilling line, "What are you hiding from me?" The weight behind that question is immense. Colum, suspicious and sharp, senses betrayal. Dougal, already leaning towards supporting the Earl of Mar's rebellion, is on the verge of revealing where his true loyalty lies. This is not just a quarrel between brothers. It is a fracture that could split clans apart and tilt the balance of power in unpredictable directions. Meanwhile, a smaller but equally tense moment appears, Brian speaking to Henry. The context is unclear, but the atmosphere is heavy. Perhaps Henry sought a way to see Julia and was denied. Perhaps Simon Fraser's watchful control has prevented any chance of privacy. Julia's expression in these glimpses tells its own story. Her face shifts between fear and determination, and one striking detail lingers. She does not have William in her arms. Where is the child? Has she entrusted him to someone for safety, or has something gone terribly wrong? The lack of answers fuels the suspense. Mrs. Fitz delivers another ominous note. She warns Ellen that if she continues this dangerous path with Brian, one of them will be dead. Her words are not a casual warning. They are a prophecy shaped by the harsh truths of the time. Love that defies family, clan, and tradition rarely ends in peace. The reminder forces Ellen, and the viewers, to confront the possibility that this romance may end in tragedy rather than triumph. The trailer closes with an image that lingers in the mind. Ellen in tears. Her sobs are not quiet or controlled. They are the sound of a soul breaking under impossible pressure. Theories swirl about what this moment means. Has Brian decided to step back, sacrificing their love to protect her honor? Has Ellen accepted the chains of marriage to Malcolm Grant? Or is there a deeper loss waiting in the shadows? The haunting uncertainty leaves us unsettled. Every thread of the trailer points toward escalation. The personal battles of love and loyalty are colliding with the sweeping tides of rebellion and war. The stage is set for choices that will shape not only the futures of Ellen, Julia, Henry, and Brian, but also the destiny of entire clans. And the cruel brilliance of the writers is this: they never let us forget that happiness is fragile in this world. Every smile is shadowed by the threat of betrayal. Every reunion risks being torn apart. Every dream of freedom comes with the cost of blood. The heartbreak of Ellen's tears lingers, but it also opens the door to one of the most haunting questions of the season. What if Brian chooses to let her go? Not because he no longer loves her, but because he believes it is the only way to keep her safe. Mrs. Fitz placed that seed of doubt in his mind when she handed him the piece of cloth used in their hand fasting. Her words carried the weight of bitter wisdom. If you love her, then leave her. That warning is both cruel and protective. It forces Brian to consider whether his presence in Ellen's life is a gift or a curse. Imagine the torment of that decision. To walk away from the woman he loves, not out of weakness, but out of sacrifice. To believe that giving her to Malcolm, a man who can offer stability and respect in the eyes of society, is the only way to protect her future. It is a twisted kind of nobility, one that leaves nothing but pain in its wake. And if this is truly the path Brian chooses, then Ellen's tears become not only a symbol of loss, but of a love denied by the cruelty of their world. But what if the opposite is true? What if Ellen's tears are not born from abandonment, but from the tightening grip of Malcolm's plans? With his uncle threatening her, with the marriage looming closer, she may be crying because every choice left to her leads to heartbreak. Stay, and she loses Brian forever. Run, and she risks not only her own life, but Brian's as well. That torment is the thread pulling the story apart. Julia and Henry, too, stand on the edge of impossible choices. Their reunion may have been beautiful, but it is also fragile. Simon Fraser is not blind. The longer Julia lingers at his side while her heart remains with Henry, the more dangerous her situation becomes. The child in her arms, William, is both a shield and a chain. Without him, she is vulnerable. With him, she is trapped in obligations she cannot escape. And Henry's desperation to see her, to claim even a moment of freedom together, risks exposing them both to Simon's wrath. Overlaying all of this is the political storm of the Jacobite rising. The Earl of Mar's proclamation does not only ignite rebellion against the crown, it also forces every character into alignment. No one can stand neutral in the chaos of war. Choices must be made, loyalties declared, and those choices will bleed into the personal stories we care about most. Will Ellen's family see her marriage as a political tool? Will Malcolm use the rebellion as leverage to secure her forever? Will Julia's ties to Simon entangle her in a cause she does not believe in? Every personal struggle now collides with history itself. The brilliance of Episode 8 and the intensity of the Episode 9 trailer lies in this collision. The story is no longer about secret glances and whispered promises. It is about survival in a world where love and honor are constantly at war. The pain of Ellen's humiliation, the courage of Julia's intervention, the layered morality of Malcolm, the rising strength of Dina Porter, and the fragile beauty of Julia and Henry's reunion all feed into a larger narrative where history, love, and fate are inseparable. And as we move forward, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. This story will not allow easy endings. Every reunion comes with risk. Every act of defiance comes with blood. Every moment of happiness trembles under the weight of what is to come. That is why we watch. That is why we cannot look away. Because beneath the beauty and heartbreak lies a single burning question: who will endure and who will be broken when the storm finally consumes them? The tears of Ellen, the determination in Julia's eyes, the fear in Henry's hesitation, the desperation in Brian's choices. All of it is leading us to the edge of something massive. And as the Jacobite standard is raised, we know the lives of these characters will never be the same. So we wait, we question, we speculate, but one thing is certain. Episode 9 will not just continue the story. It will set fire to everything we thought we knew.